Then at dark 30 next time you're up, you will drag your weary fried ass out of bed, you will put on your gun and your vest, and you will do it all over again. You know why? Because it's a front row seat to the greatest show on earth.
So you're thinking about becoming a cop. Now, before you start to fill out that application, you need to consider these 5 things. And trust me, knowing this stuff ahead of time can make all the difference. Now, you're gonna wanna stay with me until the end because the last thing we talk about is extremely important. It's something that very few applicants think about. Let's break it down. Shows like Cops and Live PD, they make it seem like every shift is wall-to-wall action. We're talking high-speed pursuits, right? Foot chases, adrenaline-pumping arrests, all the good stuff with no paperwork. Now, those exciting calls do happen, but here's the reality. Those shows are slicing and dicing hours, sometimes days of footage to give you those thrilling moments. Unless you work in an extreme high crime area, and even then, most of your day is gonna be routine. Don't get me wrong, those adrenaline hits, they're real, and that's what makes the job exciting. When you're rolling up on an armed robbery in progress, or you're helping a domestic violence victim in the heat of the moment, it's intense. It's what you signed up for. It's why I love the job. But let's talk about the other 90% of your time, the quality of life calls. We're talking neighbor disputes, noise complaints, neighbors complaining that their neighbor's grass is too high, bike theft, citizen assist, and really some downright ridiculous calls. People will call the police for anything. Let me give you a taste of one of those more unique calls I've had. So I've been very fortunate enough to work both high crime areas and some of the richest, safest neighborhoods, and trust me, I've seen it all. So I go to this call in this upscale neighborhood. We're talking mansions, manicured lawns, waterfront property, you name it. Now I show up at this beautiful house, it's on the water, and the homeowner opens the door and greets me, and he's like, "Officer, thank God you're here. Look how I have to live." So I'm like, thinking, okay, well, what's the crisis? So I walk through his palatial living room, the tile floors, we're talking grand piano, designer furniture. And then we step out back, and there's a 26-foot boat on the water. He has friends over, they're having a barbecue. His kids, they look like they just stepped out of a J.C. Penney catalog. And I'm standing there looking around going, yeah, you've got it rough. But then he points out to some trash floating in the canal. And he says, "Officer, look how I have to live." And I'm just standing there in my mind trying to figure out, how is this a police issue? Trash in the water? Really? But here's the thing. What seemed like a rich people problem to me was a big deal to him, and that's the job. What seems ridiculous to you is the most important thing to that caller at the time. So if you're thinking about becoming a cop, just remember that not every call is gonna be the in-progress foot chase or the vehicle chase. You're gonna get those routine, boring calls. And when you do, remember this, show up and listen and help, no matter how small or silly those issues might be. Because at the end of the day, even though you're showing up to those silly calls, you've got a ticket to the greatest show on earth, and every call is part of that. All right, let's be real for a second. One thing you need to know before becoming a cop is you're gonna see a lot of shit that you can't unsee. I'm talking about the heavy stuff every single day. Domestic violence, fatal car crashes, crimes against children, dead bodies, homicide, you name it, you'll probably have to deal with it. People don't call 911 to have a cup of coffee and talk about their day. They call because something has seriously gone wrong in their life at that moment, and you are walking right into that mess. You're gonna see people on the worst days of their lives, and over time, that becomes difficult. You're gonna receive calls from people who want your help, and then at the same time, express how much they hate your guts. It's a constant barrage of trauma. It's crazy because some people experience these things once or twice in their life, and they talk about it forever. And you'll be dealing with that regularly for your entire career, sometimes up to 20 years if you work in law enforcement that long. It's kind of like compounding interest. It's not good for your heart. So you gotta understand that your outlook on life will change. It will become a little darker and a little more cynical. Before you sign up, ask yourself, is this something you're willing to deal with? All right, let's talk about one of those realities of police work that most people don't even think about. Shift work. Sounds simple, right? You're gonna work nights, you're gonna work weekends, holidays. Basically, when everyone else is out enjoying their lives, you'll be out there patrolling the street. While your friends are opening gifts with their families on Christmas morning, or your buddies are grilling burgers on the 4th of July, you're gonna be handling firework calls and wondering why your dinner break is a gas station burrito at 2 a.m. in the morning. And let me tell you something, those night shifts, they hit different. You'll spend a good chunk of your time trying to stay awake. You'll be fueled by a mix of coffee, energy drinks, and adrenaline. Then, when you finally get home, you'll try to sleep while the sun's shining in your blackout curtains like it's trying to ruin your life. Now let's talk about the biggest shift work reality. It will wreck your body if you're not careful. Your sleep schedule, it's gone. Your diet, it's mostly trash unless you're super disciplined. That's why cops tend to put on a little weight or a lot of weight after the academy. In your social life, say goodbye to anything resembling normal. It is hard to hang out with your friends when your Friday night is actually Wednesday morning. But it's not all bad. There is something weirdly comfortable about being awake when the rest of the world is asleep. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and then all hell breaks loose. Shift work might mess up your schedule, but it's all a part of the greatest show on earth. All right, this one really sucks. Public scrutiny. And while we're at it, let's just throw in your private life because it's all connected. When you become a cop, you're not just signing up to enforce the law. You're signing up to have every single move you make analyzed, criticized, and watched over and over again, like the Will Smith Oscar slap. Oh, wow! I don't believe there's another job out there like this other than politics. Social media, it's your new worst enemy. You could have a 20-minute encounter where you handle everything by the book. But if someone films a 30-second clip that looks bad or out of context, congratulations, you're going viral for all the wrong reasons. And let's not forget the keyboard warriors who will criticize your every move like they've got a PhD in police tactics from the University of Reddit. But it's not just your work life that's under the microscope, it's your private life too. You remember that time you thought you could blow off some steam and film a stupid podcast on YouTube as a civilian off duty? It turns out your department doesn't find it as funny as you do or your friends do. Welcome to the world where even your sense of humor is a liability and your First Amendment rights as a civilian off duty doesn't apply. You're not just a cop at work, you're a cop at the grocery store, at your kid's volleyball game or band practice, or even when you're off duty binge watching Netflix. People will hold you to a higher standard 24/7, and they should. And remember, you can do all the right things your entire career, but 30 seconds of a bad decision, perceived or real, will ruin it. Remember the old saying, you can build 1,000,000 bridges to help humanity, but if you suck just one, look, it's tough being in a career where your mistakes, real or perceived, can end up plastered all over the news or TikTok or the internet. You're human, you're going to mess up, you're gonna make mistakes. And unfortunately, no one's gonna care that you're human. So if you want the job, be ready for this and think long and hard to see if police work is really going to be worth it for you. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that at the end, I would discuss something that's extremely difficult for some, and no one really warned you about this when you're thinking about becoming a cop. You're going to lose friends. It's not because you suddenly think you're better than everyone else, it's just the nature of the job. Some of your childhood buddies won't be comfortable hanging around a cop. It is what it is. Maybe it's because they don't want to feel like they're being watched, or maybe it's because they just don't like the police. It's a real thing. And then of course, you have the jokers, right? You know, your buddies, the ones who can't help but to make those comments every single time you come around. Oh, you better behave, there's a cop here. Or, don't arrest me, bro. Hey, John's here. Everybody put your weed away. It's funny the first few times, but after a while, it gets old. And this part really sucks. Some of your friends are gonna mess up. They might even break the law or become felons. And when that happens, you'll face a tough choice. Stay loyal to your friendship or uphold your oath. If you want to stay employed, you're gonna have to choose the job. I know, I've been through this. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna lose all your friends. The real ones, they'll stick around. They'll respect what you do, even if they don't always understand it. But here's the bottom line. Being a cop changes your circle, and that's okay. There's a country song from Tracy Lawrence called You'll Find Out Who Your Friends Are. In police work, nothing rings more true. At the end of the day, yeah, parts of this job sucks. There's no sugarcoating that. So you're gonna have to consider these things before you sign up. But if you do sign up, it's one of the most rewarding careers out there. If I could go back in time and do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. I love this job. You get a front row seat to the greatest show on earth, and trust me, there's nothing else like it.
Yes, sir. You can and you will. I guarantee it. Because it is relentless. And it gets to you. And it seems like it changes nothing. But a day like today, with some interesting capers and a few good arrests, that's good. But every once in a while, you get to take a bad guy off the streets for good. And that, my friend, is God's work.